more. We need the wall. What they're gonna ask for next is like guards like on top of the wall, or like with like long range snipers to pick off the drug dealers as they come by. And the Democrats are gonna be like, but like no, but like maybe, like that's what Chris Cuomo would do. Or not Chris Cuomo, but Chuck Schumer would do if he was in that position. Keep saying, I mean, we have to think about it. If we have the right deal, anything could happen. Yeah. So that's the situation there. Very just awful stuff. So let's find out a little bit more about this situation. The closer they get to 100%, the less their ability is, talking with the kids, the less ability they will have to address anything for unforeseen, who led the Health and Human Services, Mark Greenberg said, who led the Health and Human Services Department's care of migrant children under Obama, told the Times. Even if there's not a sudden influx of children, they will be running out of capacity unless something changes. This week, the Trump administration said it will triple the size of a tent city in Tornillo, Texas, to accommodate 308,000 youth migrants this year. Camps like these usually have rougher conditions than traditional shelters. They're also more expensive. Tent camps cost the government $750 per child per day, 3 times the amount of the traditional shelter costs. You're flying the face of child welfare, and we're doing it by design. You drive up the cost, and you prolong the trauma on these children. Yeah, and like it's not like there's nothing happening here. Like there are some real kids, like there are real kids who are really getting trauma, and it's just awful to see. That's just to say the least there. All right, we now move on to the New York governor's race. Yeah, very exciting. And the New York state primary is today. And allegations against Governor Andrew Cuomo continue to surface. Just earlier today, the New York Post released what they called a smoking gun email about the people in Cuomo's camp had asked reporters to write that, alleging that people in Cuomo's camp had asked reporters to write about debunked claims that challenger Cynthia Nixon was anti-Semitic. This was before a mailer from New York Democrats sent to Jewish neighborhoods last weekend made similar claims about Nixon, which is very, very, very dirty, dirty stuff. Like, did Cuomo come out and condemn it? I mean, I hope it would be, I hope they would come out and condemn this. Like, because this is dirty politics. This is a candidate who doesn't have a lot of money. She's running a true progressive message. She's only played fair. She's only attacked you on your policy, which, like, may not seem fair to you, but is fair. Like, it's just, it's just kind of what's going on, and just deal with it. Like, that's how politics works. And then for Andrew Cuomo to come out and attack her as anti-Semitic when her 2 kids are literally Jewish, and they belong to synagogue, their bar mitzvah, whatever. And I think she married a Jewish guy before she, like, came out as a lesbian. She still is being called anti-Semitic, which is incredible. Cuomo's protests that he was involved are looking less and less legitimate. In the second story today, the Post reports that Democratic sources say Cuomo's closest advisors, including his top former aide, Larry Schwartz, drafted and approved the mailer. Schwartz was involved with the mailer and signed off on it, the source told the Post. They described Schwartz as Cuomo's henchman and enforcer, kind of like maybe a Michael Cohen type guy. In response to the new reporting from the Post, Cuomo's campaign says that Schwartz is the only saw the positive parts of the mailer. Oh, I'm sure he did. Larry Schwartz, who serves in a campaign in a volunteer capacity, was reviewing mail pieces in an ad hoc fashion, but he only saw the positive section of the mailer and never saw its negative section. Liz Smith, Cuomo campaign spokeswoman, told the Post, had he seen it, he would have never gone out. It would have never gone out. I'm sure. This is one of the dirtiest politicians in the country. Like, who are you talking about? Schwartz has known the Cuomos since the 90s, when they worked on his father Mario Cuomo's failed re-election campaign for a 4th term as mayor together. After working in Cuomo's gubernatorial administration, Schwartz was appointed to the board of the MTA in 2015. So Cuomo's friends get big benefits. That's just to say the least. Sources told the Post that through campaign staffer named David Lobel, the author of the mailer, though they named David Lobel as the author of the mailer, that doesn't tell the whole story. The sources describe Lobel as a fall guy. The real story is the campaign that did this. So yeah, I think we can very much almost positively say that the Cuomo campaign did set off, and in some cases even right, or had close connection in writing this anti-Semitism mailer, which is very, very disturbing, to say the least. All right. We now move on to more stuff about New York's primary elections. Yeah, we all got all this stuff to do as New York voters are heading to the polls on Thursday in an unusual season of primaries, marked by surprise victories, and insurgent candidacies moves to an end. It has been definitely a crazy primary season. The voters will choose, and by the way, it all continues tonight on the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. We're going to tell you 5 things you need to know about this upcoming New York primary next. Hope everyone is enjoying their morning, and yeah, we still do have quite a lot of stuff to get into, of course. Excuse me there. Good morning there. Friday is tomorrow, believe it or not, because we did get a little bit of us people who are associated, or I'm personally not Jewish myself, but I do go to a school that does observe the Jewish holidays. So I got a little bit of a later start of the week due to Rosh Hashanah. I know some of the people listening to the show did not. So, all right, we still do have a lot of stuff to get to, as we got 5 stuff from the primaries and more coming your way. So here's what we need to watch. The intrigue starts at the top. Can Cynthia Nixon divide the polls and deprive Andrew Cuomo of a 3rd nomination as governor? The race for the Democratic nomination for Attorney General in New York, a contest to decide who will inherit ongoing lawsuits and inquiries into President Trump, is a top toss-up, according to the polls. Even the logistics are complicated. New York has a split primary system where federal primaries are held in June 26th. This time, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won because those are for a House and Senate, I think, if I'm not missing anything. Those are the federal primaries, but the local primaries here are in September. This year's primaries is on a Thursday rather than a Tuesday because of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish holiday, and the anniversary of the September 11th terror attacks. Finally, check your watches. In much of upstate New York, except near Buffalo, polls do not open until noon. Downstate polls open at 6 a.m. All sites close at 9 p.m. according to the State Board of Elections. I wonder where Cynthia Nixon has the largest amount of support. Let me guess. Upstate New York. I'm just gonna throw that out. If I had to guess, without looking at the polls, I am going to say Cynthia Nixon has the probably Cynthia Nixon polls. Like, she probably has, if I had to say, the most amount of support. Like, she's really quite winning in the polls right now. Like, there's no doubt about that. It seems very strongly that this entire situation, like, if I had to guess, and I don't know, I'm have to do a little bit more research than what I can do on the show to find it out, like, right now, but there is definitely a strong sense in my mind that the most amount of support is in for Cynthia Nixon would be in upstate New York. That's why they're opening the polls at noon. which is a little bit suspect, to say the least. I cannot remember a primary where there's so many open seats and fascinating questions. Janine Zano, giving us a little bit of hype here, a professor of political science at Iona College, said people are in a wait-and-see moment, whereas you usually know how things will go. Here are 5 things to look for. Will polls be wrong again? This election season has seen numerous examples of primary winners who've been trailing in the polls, including New York, where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was down 36 points, according to internal polls by her opponent. That's interesting. Guess who's down by the same margin right now? Cynthia Nixon. Better want to watch tonight. Representative Joe Crowley is obviously who she was facing. She ended up winning by 15 points. That's incredible. I get this so hyped every time I just read that. Nixon finds herself in a similar precedent. Every major poll has her trailing Cuomo by 30 to 41 points. But as Nixon has said, the polls are not reaching people who will come out and vote for her, and she may have a point. Which is what she's talking about there is unlikely voters who have not voted before, but people who would want to come in and maybe possibly do something new, to be something different, actually who are going to be inspired, who maybe have been turned off by Cuomo in the past and haven't voted for in past elections, are going to be turned off by the campaign of Cynthia Nixon, independents, people who are on the fence there, and turned on by her good, positive political rhetoric. Bruce Giori, an adjunct professor at political science university, said the polls have not done a good job of measuring the impact of minority voters, which is interesting. In terms of polling data, there's a chronic underestimation of both the minority vote and how sharply it breaks for candidates they vote for. That could be good news for minority candidates, and especially minority women candidates. Turnout matters. With this year's primary on a Thursday, voter turnout is very uncertain, to say the least. Generally speaking, a larger turnout means that more ballots will be cast. By the way, this reporting here from the New York Times, should have mentioned, apologize, by minority voters in New York's urban core and among white Catholics in the suburbs and upstate, Gory said, which could be interesting. Laura Chandler tends to favor candidates who appeal more to progressive voters, but those particular groups could maybe more lean to Cuomo's side. New York was 8th to last in voter turnout after the 2016 presidential election, and their voter turnout is low in primaries. Here's maybe a little bit of an indication why. They're closed primaries. Only Democrats can vote in them. And people who want to vote in them, for instance, my parents, they would want to vote in the New York primaries. They can't because it's a closed primary, which is a little bit disappointing to say the least. Here's the question. Will the resistance vote be heard in New York? Ms. Ocasio-Cortez's surprise victory has election watchers wondering if the same progressive voters will be out in force again. Let's hope so. Nixon and Jumaane D. Williams, a city councilman who represents Flatbush, Brooklyn, and is running for lieutenant governor, and Ms. Teachat of all categories themselves as insurgent candidates, which I will tell you they are. The question is, does the resistance enthusiasm, which plays well at the district level, play as well in the statewide market? It'll be very tough to see. While Nixon is trailing badly in the polls, Williams trails incumbent Governor Kathy Hochul by single digits, and Teachat seems to be in the thick of a three-way battle with Representative Sean Patrick Maloney and the city advocate Letitia James. Leisha Eve only has the support of 3%. She is very, very distant fourth. Sucks for her, but then find out she's a former Verizon lawyer, and you're like, okay, that makes more sense. So Teachat most likely going to be between, all reports kind of indicate, Sean Patrick Maloney. Jimmy Van Bramer, a councilman from Queens, has received his endorsement of James, who has the support of Cuomo and the Democratic Party to endorse Teachat. So shout out Jimmy Van Bramer. Yeah. People are saying they're fed up with politics as usual. Young progressive voters have zero interest in building up machines. That's damn right. President Trump is a local issue in New York. It's every Democratic candidate running for Attorney General is pledged to fight Trump and his policies. Cuomo has also made protecting New York voters from Trump a consistent theme of his messaging to voters. So much that Nixon has tried to link the two men. Given Trump's approval ratings in New York, it might be a good strategy. Trump has had a rough few weeks with the release of Washington Washington, with the Bob Woodward book, is pretty much what I'm trying to say, that depicts a White House that cons a state of chaos